destroyed appropriately. And that's why we have shredders throughout the centers. As was recently noted in the compliance newsletter, a healthcare provider, Signet, was fined $4.3 million for HIPAA violations. They refused to provide patients with their medical records, and they failed to cooperate in HHS's investigation. Massachusetts General settled recently with HHS for a $1 million HIPAA violation when it was discovered that one of their employees had inadvertently left 192 patient records on the subway with PHI information. As I mentioned earlier in one of the first slides, the government is working to ramp up their enforcement of medical privacy laws. In some cases, it's not malicious or intentional, it's just bad luck. Two of Highmark's most recent breaches, one from this year, involved torn mail envelopes or packages that contained insurance plan rosters. Another one involved a manual error in which an email that was intended for a law firm was inadvertently sent to another Highmark Group customer. And then there was another HIPAA violation settlement with Blue Cross Blue Shield, which was caused when there was a stolen laptop from an employee. Another recent one is July 6th. HHS entered into a resolution agreement with the University of California in Los Angeles to settle potential violations of HIPAA privacy and security rules. They settled for $865,000, and they have to have a corrective action plan. And what happened in that case is some of the employees disclosed the identity of a few celebrity patients. I think one was Tom Cruise. Okay, another area of concern is our red flag rules. The Federal Trade Commission has even gotten into the legislation. We must adhere to the red flag rules, and these are aimed at protecting consumers, including patients, from identity theft. We require our patients to provide a photo ID. We verify demographics prior to providing services, and we protect the financial information we obtain by maintaining it in a secure place and with secured access. We shred all, bless you, we shred all patient credit card information, and we prohibit the sharing of passwords. Safety and health are other areas that are very highly regulated. We comply with all governmental rules and regulations that promote the protection of workplace safety and health, such as all pertinent OSHA requirements. We've developed our own safety program and safety-related policies. We follow proper procedures to handle and dispose of hazardous and infectious waste. United requires its employees to report for work and to perform their assigned duties competently and efficiently without impaired judgment, impaired coordination or skill, and in a manner that does not jeopardize the health and safety of patients, visitors, and other employees. Employees should report any communicable disease exposure to your supervisor. Lots of areas of concern for billing. We need to ensure that we follow not only our own contractual obligations with our contracted payers, but we also need to ensure that all of our billings conform to pertinent state and federal laws and regulations. We should not present any false claims for payment that are false, fictitious, or fraudulent. You may wonder who would ever do such a thing. But a couple of days ago, July 14th, two doctors in the area were charged and were indicted for fraudulently billing Medicare and Medicaid, and it was $24 million that they had billed for services that were not performed. And the doctor, you may have heard the name, is Gautam Gupta. Yeah, because he, I know the name because his weight loss clinic was right next to a facility where I work out. And he advertised heavily in the Chicago area. And he and his partner from Rockford, they both were indicted and charged. The OIG even has its fugitives most wanted list. And it's almost like a list that you might see in, in the old movies in the post office, where it actually has pictures of their most wanted fugitives. And sometimes I get posts from the OIG that they've caught up with one of their most wanted. It's like a television show. So to end this session, the bottom line is, and what everyone should take away, is that you need to stop. If you see a problem, think about, why is it a problem? Ask yourself, is it legal? Does it follow United's policies? Is it ethical? How would it look and how would it sound in the newspaper? Am I treating others like I want to be treated? Is it in the best interest of the patient or the customers? Then act. Act on it. If you don't know what should be done, then just ask. This video was produced as a result of a partnership between the Healthcare Compliance Association, HHS, and the University Hospitals and Health Systems in Cleveland, Ohio. The OIG has recommended that this video be included in compliance training as a vehicle to get the message out that compliance programs are critically important in this time of healthcare reform and transformation. Here's our movie.
Lori Vick, on behalf of the Healthcare Compliance Association, welcome. In today's environment of healthcare reform and an emphasis on the quality of healthcare, the role of compliance is more critical than ever. Today we're going to explore that role with key government officials and leaders of healthcare compliance who share their insight on implementing and sustaining an effective compliance program. Healthcare providers pay close attention to the activities and pronouncements of the Office of Inspector General. The OIG's mission to prevent, detect, and correct fraud, waste, and abuse should be aligned with the goals of an effective compliance program. Daniel Levinson, Inspector General, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, explains the mission.
We really have a twofold mission. One is to detect and prevent fraud, waste, and abuse. And we do that primarily through our investigative mission. But we also have a very important co-equal obligation to promote economy, efficiency, and effectiveness in the delivery of services by Health and Human Services. Very important in both Medicare and Medicaid.
Healthcare in America is facing unprecedented challenges. While providers struggle to understand the impact of healthcare reform, the cost continues to soar, as does the number of people who rely on Medicare and Medicaid. In preparing for the future of healthcare, organizations need to consider compliance as an integral part of their business operations.
As a result of healthcare reform and the focus that it places on value and quality of healthcare, that the compliance operation becomes really an integral part of the health and welfare of the entire enterprise. It's very important that the compliance function report directly to the board. We need a relationship that is direct and that is personal, so that the directors of the operation are familiar with how the compliance process is actually being implemented in their institutions.
The governing body of the healthcare organization plays a key role in ensuring there are adequate controls and systems in place to identify misconduct and address emerging risks. Let's hear some key questions board members consider in carrying out their fiduciary duties.
The simplest way for a board to approach this is with TACT, T-A-C-T. First, you want to ask the question about transparency. Are we prepared to have systems that track and report data accurately? Next, accountability. Do we have systems in place that will allow us to identify and repay funds that we should not have received? Compliance, or the C in TACT. Do my compliance officers and compliance team understand the broad scope of what is now in their responsibilities? And finally, T, or training. Do my clinicians understand that quality is part of compliance? It is more important now than ever to have a compliance program. Under the healthcare reform, all providers are going to be required to have compliance programs in place. And even if that law didn't exist, there's a very good common sense reason to have compliance. A compliance program is like a seatbelt. You want to wear it all the time, even if you never intend to get into an accident.
Compliance programs have historically been voluntary for companies not subject to a corporate integrity agreement. With healthcare reform, having an effective compliance program is becoming a requirement. Jim Sheehan, Medicaid Inspector General for the state of New York, where compliance is a requirement, talks about the crucial role of the compliance officer.
In New York, what we have observed is that the compliance officer makes a huge difference in ensuring that compliance is part of the DNA of the organization. But the other thing it does, they become the face of the organization for us. And earning the trust of regulatory agencies on minor issues means when you face a major question that you start with that base of trust.
Experts agree that the best compliance programs are woven into an organization's culture and evident to employees, the public, and regulators alike.
What is the public evidence that your organization is committed to compliance? Are there signs on the walls? Are there people who are actively involved in this activity? Does your website show that you have a compliance program, how it works, and how to access it?
The best way to have a strong compliance program is to make sure it's worked into the daily fabric of your organization. You've got to do compliant things every day. It's not a moment or an experience that you do every now and then. You do compliant things every day. And our goal is really to get to a place where our employees aren't even thinking about it, where it becomes natural, it becomes part of our business practice and our business model to do things the right way the first time and every time.
In this time of industry transformation, companies who integrate compliance efforts into their business planning are making a commitment to a healthy future. Jenny O'Brien, Chief Medicare Compliance Officer for United Healthcare, shares how the Healthcare Compliance Association has created value for her organization.
HCC is a great organization to help the profession be ready for this ever-changing healthcare environment. An organization such as a healthcare compliance organization is a great place to come to get resources, to get tools, to network with other professionals, and to listen to other people share their stories and their lessons learned about what works and about what hasn't worked and maybe a more effective way of getting there.
Attracting and developing experienced compliance personnel is a sound investment.
The best reason to continue a compliance program is quite simple. You've demonstrated you know how to do it right. You don't want to stop compliance. You want to build on compliance.
Healthcare is indeed an ever-changing environment, and healthcare organizations must be flexible and responsive to that change. By implementing the expert guidance we've heard today, your organization will be prepared to develop and sustain a healthy, enduring compliance program. Thank you.
Okay. So now, following up on that, we're going to start the second part of our training, which we're required to hold, and that is our arrangement training. In this session, we're going to discuss the anti-kickback statute, Stark Law, and arrangements that potentially violate these laws. We'll discuss the